Welcome to LMJ English. Today we're diving into 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, a book that offers powerful life lessons on confidence, discipline, and success. Before we dive into this life-changing journey, make sure to subscribe to LMJ English. You won't want to miss the lessons that could completely transform your mindset, confidence, and success. Stay with us until the end. You might just discover the key to unlocking your full potential. Let's get started. In a quiet town, nestled between rolling hills and a vast, endless sky, lived a young man named Daniel. He was intelligent and hard-working, but despite his efforts, he often felt lost. Life seemed overwhelming, full of uncertainty and doubt. No matter how hard he tried, he struggled to find direction and confidence in himself. One evening, as Daniel wandered through the aisles of a small bookstore, he stumbled upon a book with a bold title, 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Intrigued, he picked it up and flipped through the pages. Each rule spoke to him like a voice of wisdom, offering clarity in a world that often felt chaotic. The book promised practical lessons, guidelines that could reshape his mindset, build confidence, and set him on a path to success. Determined to change his life, Daniel took the book home and started reading. With every chapter, he felt as if he was having a conversation with a wise mentor. The rules weren't just theories, they were powerful insights into human nature, discipline, and resilience. One rule in particular stood out to him: stand up straight with your shoulders back. It wasn't just about posture, it was about self-respect, confidence, and facing life's challenges head-on. As days passed, Daniel started applying the lessons to his own life. He walked with confidence, spoke with clarity, and took responsibility for his actions. Slowly but surely, he saw changes at work, in his relationships, and most importantly, in the way he saw himself. One book had transformed his perspective, and from that moment on, Daniel knew that knowledge had the power to shape destinies. As Daniel continued reading 12 Rules for Life, he began to see the world differently. Each chapter revealed a truth he had never considered before. It wasn't just about following rules, it was about understanding life, facing struggles with courage, and creating a future worth living. One morning, Daniel woke up feeling something new, a sense of purpose. Instead of dragging himself out of bed and dreading the day, he stood up straight, took a deep breath, and reminded himself, "I am in control of my life." It was a small change, but it felt powerful. At work, he noticed something interesting. When he spoke with confidence and clarity, people listened. When he stopped comparing himself to others and focused on improving just a little each day, he felt more motivated. When he surrounded himself with positive, driven people, instead of those who drained his energy, his outlook on life changed completely. But the real test came when he faced a personal setback. A longtime friend betrayed his trust, leaving him hurt and questioning his judgment. The old Daniel would have drowned in self-pity, blaming others for his misfortune. But this time he remembered Rule 6. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Instead of wasting time on anger, he focused on what he could control: his own actions, his own choices. Days turned into weeks, and soon Daniel was no longer the same person who had wandered into that bookstore feeling lost. He was stronger, more confident and ready to take on life's challenges with a new mindset. One book had changed everything, and now he knew knowledge was the key to transformation. Rule 1. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Good posture reflects confidence and self-respect, influencing how others perceive and treat you. Daniel had always walked with his head slightly down, shoulders slouched, as if trying to make himself invisible. He wasn't aware of it, but deep down, his posture reflected his self-doubt. He had spent years feeling unsure of himself, avoiding eye contact and hesitating to speak up in conversations. One afternoon, while reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across the first rule: stand up straight with your shoulders back. At first, he thought it was just about good posture. But as he continued reading, he realized it was about much more. It was about self-respect, confidence, and how body language could influence not only the way others saw him, but the way he saw himself. Determined to change, he decided to experiment. The next morning, instead of walking with his usual slouched posture, he took a deep breath, pulled his shoulders back, and lifted his head. He looked people in the eye, walked with purpose, and carried himself as if he truly belonged in every room he entered. The results were immediate. His co-workers seemed to take him more seriously. Strangers responded to him with more respect. Even at work meetings, people listened more attentively when he spoke. But most importantly, something inside him changed. He felt more confident. It was as if his body was sending a message to his mind. You are strong, you are capable, you are in control. One day, Daniel found himself in a situation that would have normally made him anxious, a job interview for a higher position in his company. But this time he didn't let nervousness take over. He walked in with his shoulders back, his head high, and his voice steady. The hiring manager noticed his presence immediately. By the end of the interview, Daniel had secured the promotion. That day he truly understood the power of posture, not just in the way the world perceived him, but in the way he perceived himself. And from that moment on, he never walked with his head down again. Rule 2. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Many people care for others but neglect themselves. Self-respect and self-care are crucial for a better life. For most of his life, Daniel had been the type of person who always put others first. He was the friend who listened for hours, the co-worker who stayed late to help, and the son who never wanted to disappoint his parents. He gave advice, encouraged others, and made sure everyone around him was okay. But there was one problem. He never treated himself with the same kindness. Whenever he failed, he was harsh on himself. Whenever he felt exhausted, he ignored it and pushed forward. He told his friends to take care of themselves, yet he skipped meals, lost sleep, and neglected his own well-being. One evening, while reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across a question that shook him. If you had a close friend who was struggling, how would you treat them? He thought about it. He would support them, encourage them, remind them of their worth. Then the realization hit him. Why don't I treat myself the same way? That night, Daniel made a promise. He would start caring for himself as if he was someone he was responsible for helping. He started small. He set a bedtime and actually followed it. He made time for exercise not because he had to, but because his body deserved to be strong. He ate healthy meals not as a punishment, but as a way of fueling himself. He even stopped speaking to himself with self-criticism. Instead of saying, "I'm a failure," he told himself, "I'm learning and I will improve." At first it felt strange, almost selfish. But as days passed, something incredible happened. He felt more energized, more focused, more at peace. His mind was clearer and his confidence grew. People even noticed. His friends told him he looked happier, more alive. One afternoon, a colleague approached him and asked, "Daniel, you've changed. What's your secret?" He smiled and simply said, "I finally started treating myself like someone I actually care about." Rule 3. Make friends with people who want the best for you. Your environment and friendships shape your future. Surround yourself with positive, ambitious individuals. Daniel had always believed that friendships were meant to last forever. He had grown up with the same group of friends, people who had been with him through different stages of life. But as the years went by, he started noticing something troubling. Many of his friends were stuck in negative patterns, complaining about life, making excuses, and avoiding any real growth. Whenever Daniel shared his dreams of self-improvement, they laughed. "Why bother reading all those books?" They would say, "Success is just luck." Some even discouraged him from trying new things, telling him to just accept life as it is. But deep down, Daniel knew he wanted more. He wanted to grow, to improve, to surround himself with people who inspired him rather than held him back. One day, after reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across a simple but powerful truth. Your friends influence your future. If he surrounded himself with people who were negative and unmotivated, he would become the same. But if he built friendships with people who were ambitious, supportive, and driven, he too would rise. Making a change wasn't easy. At first, he felt guilty distancing himself from old friends. But then he made an effort to connect with people who shared his passion for growth. He attended workshops, joined a book club, and engaged in conversations with those who pushed him to be better. The impact was immediate. Suddenly he was surrounded by people who encouraged his dreams, who shared new ideas, who celebrated his progress rather than doubted it. His mindset shifted. He felt more motivated, more energized, more excited about life. One evening, while reflecting on his journey, Daniel realized something profound. The people you choose to keep around you don't just shape your present, they shape your future. And by choosing wisely, he had taken a powerful step toward becoming the best version of himself. Rule 4. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Focus on personal growth instead of measuring yourself against unrealistic social media portrayals. Daniel used to spend hours scrolling through social media, looking at the seemingly perfect lives of others. He saw people his age traveling the world, buying expensive cars, starting successful businesses, and living what appeared to be a dream life. Every time he compared himself to them, he felt smaller, weaker, like he was failing at life. Why? Am I not as successful as them? He often wondered. One evening, while reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across a rule that changed everything. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Peterson's words struck him deeply. He realized that social media only showed the highlights of people's lives, not their struggles, failures, or moments of self-doubt. He was comparing his behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's best moments. Determined to shift his perspective, Daniel decided to measure progress differently. Instead of asking, "Am I as successful as them?" he started asking, "Am I better than I was yesterday?" Each day he focused on small improvements. He read one more page than the day before, exercised 5 minutes longer, and practiced speaking with more confidence. He kept a journal tracking his growth, and for the first time in a long while he felt a sense of achievement, not because he was ahead of someone else, but because he was ahead of his past self. Weeks turned into months, and one day he looked back at where he had started. He was no longer the insecure, directionless man he had once been. His mindset had shifted, his skills had improved, and most importantly, he had learned the true meaning of success, not being better than others, but being better than yesterday. Rule 5. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Self-discipline and responsibility are essential for both children and adults to create a fulfilling life. Daniel grew up watching his parents struggle with his younger brother, Liam. Unlike Daniel, who had always followed the rules, Liam was rebellious. He threw tantrums, ignored responsibilities, and never faced consequences for his actions. Their parents, wanting to be kind, always gave in to his demands. At first it seemed harmless, just a child being difficult. But as Liam grew older, the effects became clear. He had trouble in school, lacked discipline, and blamed everyone else for his failures. Whenever life became difficult, he ran away from responsibility instead of facing it. One day, after reading 12 Rules for Life, Daniel came across a hard truth. Parents who refuse to discipline their children are not being kind. They are setting them up for failure. He realized that avoiding short-term discomfort by not correcting bad behavior only led to long-term suffering. Determined to help his brother, Daniel decided to approach him differently. Instead of lecturing him, he led by example. He encouraged Liam to take small responsibilities, setting goals, sticking to schedules, and learning from mistakes. At first, Liam resisted, but as time passed, he started to see the benefits of self-discipline. One afternoon, after months of effort, Liam approached Daniel with a smile. "I finally finished a book from start to finish," he said proudly, "and it actually helped me." Daniel realized that discipline was not about control, it was about love. And whether it was raising a child or improving oneself, learning responsibility was the foundation of a better future. Rule 6. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Instead of blaming others, take responsibility and improve your own life first. For years, Daniel had fallen into the habit of blaming the world for his problems. If he struggled at work, he blamed his boss. If he failed at something, he blamed the system. If life felt unfair, he blamed society. It was always easier to point fingers at the world rather than take responsibility. One evening, while reading 12 Rules for Life, a single sentence made him pause. Before you try to change the world, clean your own room. At first it seemed too simple, but the more he thought about it, the more he realized he had spent so much time complaining about external problems that he had ignored the chaos in his own life. Determined to change, he started small. He literally cleaned his room, organizing his space as a symbol of putting his life in order. Then he moved on to bigger things, his finances, his habits, his time management. Instead of blaming his boss, For not recognizing his hard work, he focused on improving his skills. Instead of complaining about life being unfair, he worked on becoming stronger and more resilient. As he made these changes, something unexpected happened. The world didn't seem as unfair as before. Challenges became opportunities. Failures became lessons, and his mindset shifted from victim to leader. One day, a friend who often complained about life's unfairness asked Daniel, "How do you stay so motivated?" Daniel smiled and simply said, "I stopped trying to fix the world and started fixing myself." Rule 7. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. True success comes from long-term dedication, not shortcuts or temporary pleasures. Daniel had always wanted success, but like many people, he often searched for the easiest path. He jumped from one idea to another, hoping to find a shortcut to wealth, happiness, or achievement. When things got difficult, he moved on to something else, thinking that success should come without struggle. Then one day, while reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across a profound lesson. Stop chasing what is easy. Start pursuing what is meaningful. For the first time, he asked himself, what truly matters? Was it quick money, instant rewards, or was it building something that would last? A career he was proud of, skills that made him valuable, relationships that were deep and meaningful. From that moment on, Daniel made a choice. Instead of chasing fast success, he committed to something long-term. He dedicated himself to learning, growing, and improving every single day. He chose discipline over convenience, purpose over distraction. At first, progress was slow. There were days when he doubted himself, when taking the easy way out seemed tempting. But he reminded himself, real success is built over time. And as the months passed, he started to see the results. His skills improved, his career advanced, and for the first time in his life, he felt truly fulfilled. One evening, as he looked back at the path he had taken, he realized something important. The easy road leads nowhere. But the meaningful road, the one filled with challenges, growth, and persistence, leads to a life worth living. Rule 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Honesty builds trust, confidence, and strong character, while lies create stress and failure. Daniel had never considered himself a dishonest person. He didn't tell big lies, but he often twisted the truth, saying he was fine when he wasn't, exaggerating his achievements to impress others, or avoiding difficult conversations to keep the peace. Over time, these small lies piled up, and he found himself feeling anxious and disconnected from who he really was. One day, while reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across a simple but powerful rule. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. It made him pause. Had his habit of avoiding the truth been holding him back? He realized that every time he lied, he weakened himself. He became less authentic, less confident, and more afraid of facing reality. Determined to change, Daniel decided to practice radical honesty. He started small, expressing his real opinions even when it was uncomfortable. He admitted when he didn't know something instead of pretending. He faced difficult conversations head-on, rather than avoiding them with white lies. At first, it was terrifying. He worried about how people would react. But something surprising happened. People respected him more. His relationships deepened, his confidence grew, and for the first time in years he felt truly free. One day a co-worker asked him, "Why do you always speak so openly? Aren't you afraid of upsetting people?" Daniel smiled and said, "For years I was more afraid of the truth than of living a lie, but now I've realized only the truth can set you free." Rule 9. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. Active listening leads to growth, learning, and better relationships. Daniel used to think he was a good listener, but in reality, he often waited for his turn to speak, rather than truly hearing what others were saying. He interrupted, rushed to give advice, and sometimes dismissed ideas that didn't align with his own beliefs. Then one day, while reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across a rule that changed his perspective. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. He realized that every person he met had unique experiences, lessons, and insights that he could learn from, if only he took the time to listen. Determined to improve, Daniel started practicing deep listening. He stopped interrupting, asked thoughtful questions, and paid full attention to what others were saying. At first, it was difficult. His mind often wanted to jump ahead with his own opinions, but as he persisted, something incredible happened. His conversations became richer. People opened up to him more. He learned new ideas, gained fresh perspectives, and even discovered solutions to his own problems through the wisdom of others. One day, during a discussion at work, a colleague shared a strategy that Daniel had never considered before. Instead of dismissing it, he listened carefully and applied it, and it led to one of the biggest successes of his career. That day, he realized that true wisdom isn't just about speaking, it's about listening, from I. Then on, Daniel approached every conversation with curiosity, knowing that every person he met had something valuable to teach him. Rule 10. Be precise in your speech. Clear, specific communication leads to better understanding, problem solving, and goal achievement. Daniel had always struggled with expressing himself, whether in work meetings, personal conversations, or even setting goals for himself. He often spoke in vague terms. Instead of clearly stating what he wanted or needed, he used phrases like, "I just want to be successful," or "things aren't going well." But what did success really mean? And what exactly wasn't going well? One evening, while reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across a lesson that hit him hard. If you cannot clearly define a problem, you cannot solve it. If you do not precisely express your desires, you will never achieve them. Determined to change, Daniel started practicing precise speech. Instead of saying, "I need to be better at work," he told himself, "I need to improve my public speaking skills by practicing for 10 minutes every day." Instead of saying, "I feel bad," he would define his emotions. "I feel frustrated because I didn't manage my time well today." The results were immediate. His productivity improved, his conversations became more meaningful, and people started understanding him better. At work, his boss noticed the difference. "Your ideas are much clearer now," he said during a meeting. "That's the kind of leadership we need." But the biggest change came in his personal life. By clearly communicating his thoughts and feelings, his relationships improved, misunderstandings decreased, and he felt more in control of his own life. One day a friend asked him how he had become so confident and decisive. Daniel simply smiled and said, "Because now I know exactly what I want, and I know how to say it." Rule 11. Do not bother children. When they are skateboarding, taking risks and facing challenges leads to strength, confidence, and independence. Daniel had always played it safe. He avoided risks, stuck to familiar routines, and hesitated whenever. Life presented him with challenges. He believed that staying comfortable was the best way to avoid failure. One day, while reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across an unusual lesson. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. At first, he didn't understand. What did skateboarding have to do with life? But as he read on, he realized the deeper meaning. Children take risks because that's how they grow stronger. They fall, they get hurt, but they get back up. If you try to protect them from every danger, they never learn resilience. And the same is true for adults. That realization made Daniel reflect on his own fears. How many opportunities had he avoided just because he was afraid of failure? How many dreams had he set aside because they seemed too risky? Determined to change, Daniel made a promise to himself. I will embrace challenges instead of running from them. He started taking small risks, speaking up in meetings, trying new experiences, pushing himself beyond his comfort zone. At first it was terrifying, but just like a child learning to skateboard, every time he stumbled, he learned. One day an opportunity came that he would have once ignored, a chance to lead a major project at work. The old Daniel would have said, "What if I fail?" But the new Daniel thought, "What if I succeed?" He took the challenge head-on, and even though it wasn't perfect, he learned more than he ever had before. Looking back, he realized that playing it safe had never protected him. It had only kept him stuck. Growth, strength, and confidence didn't come from avoiding risks. They came from taking them. Rule 12. Pet a cat. When you encounter one on the street, find small moments of joy, even in difficult times. Life hadn't been easy for Daniel. Despite all his progress, there were still days when stress overwhelmed him. Work pressures, personal struggles, and the weight of uncertainty about the future. In those moments, he often found himself drowning in negativity, unable to see a way forward. Then, one evening, while reading 12 Rules for Life, he came across a simple but profound rule. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. It wasn't just about animals. It was about finding small moments of peace and beauty in the middle of life's chaos. That same week, as Daniel walked home after a particularly exhausting day, he noticed a small stray cat sitting on a bench. Normally he wouldn't have paid much attention, but this time he remembered the rule. He paused, knelt down, and gently petted the cat. For a few moments he forgot about his worries. He simply existed in that moment. No stress, no pressure, just the quiet comfort of an animal's presence. From that day on, he made it a habit to notice the little things: a warm cup of coffee on a cold morning, the laughter of children playing. In the park, the sound of rain against his window. These small moments didn't erase his problems, but they reminded him that life wasn't just about struggle. There was beauty too, even in the hardest times. One evening, a friend who was going through a difficult time asked Daniel, "How do you stay positive when life feels so overwhelming?" Daniel thought for a moment, then smiled. "Look for the small moments of joy," he said. "Sometimes all it takes is petting a cat on the street." Final words. Take responsibility for your life. Life is challenging, but personal responsibility, self-improvement, and resilience can create a better future. Looking back, Daniel could hardly recognize the person he used to be, the uncertain, hesitant man who had walked into that bookstore months ago. He had started his journey searching for guidance, and through 12 Rules for Life he had found something even more valuable: ownership of his own destiny. He had learned that confidence came from how he carried himself, that self-care wasn't selfish, and that surrounding himself with the right people mattered. He had stopped comparing himself to others and focused on daily improvement. He had taken responsibility instead of blaming the world, and he had chosen meaning over temporary comfort. Most importantly, he had learned that life would never be free of struggles, but that didn't mean it wasn't worth living. One morning, as he sipped his coffee and flipped through the pages of yet another book, he realized something powerful. No one was coming to save him, but he didn't need saving anymore. He had taken control of his life. He was still growing, still learning, still facing challenges, but now he had the mindset to handle them. As he stepped out into the world that day, he carried with him the greatest lesson of all: your future isn't determined by fate. It's shaped by the choices you make today. And with that, Daniel smiled, ready to take on whatever came next. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, share, and drop a comment below. Tell us which lesson resonated with you the most. And of course, hit that subscribe button so we can keep bringing you powerful content that helps you grow, learn, and succeed. Your support means everything. 20 key vocabulary words from the story and their explanations. Confidence, a strong belief in oneself and one's abilities, often reflected in body language and decision-making. Resilience, the ability to recover from setbacks, difficulties, or failures and keep moving forward. Self-discipline, the practice of controlling one's emotions, behaviors, and habits to achieve long-term goals. Mindset, a person's way of thinking that influences their attitudes, decisions, and actions. Responsibility, taking ownership of one's actions, choices, and circumstances instead of blaming others. Personal, growth, the continuous process of improving oneself through learning, experiences, and self-reflection. Transformation, a complete change in someone's character, mindset, or life due to new experiences or knowledge. Challenge, a difficult situation or task that requires effort and courage to overcome. Comparison, the act of measuring oneself against others, often leading to self-doubt or unrealistic expectations. Motivation, the inner drive to take action and pursue goals, especially during difficult times. Perspective, the way a person views or understands a situation, often shaped by experience and mindset. Influence, the power to shape thoughts, behaviors, or decisions, either through people, books, or experiences. Opportunities, chances, or situations that allow someone to grow, succeed, or improve their life. Accountability, being responsible for one's actions and accepting the consequences of choices made. Vulnerability, the willingness to be open about one's struggles, fears, or weaknesses as a way of growing. Success, the achievement of a goal, whether personal, professional, or emotional. Authenticity, being true to oneself, expressing genuine thoughts and emotions instead of pretending. Negativity, a mindset or attitude focused on complaints, doubts, or limiting beliefs that hold people back. Growth mindset, the belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort and learning. small wins, minor achievements that build momentum and lead to long-term success.